Okay, so this is section 3, where we are going to be solving polynomial equations of third and fourth degree polynomials. So the first thing we talked about was factoring perfect cubes, or the sum and difference of cubes. And we use these equations. A cubed plus b cubed is a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared. Or we can use the equation a cubed minus b cubed equals a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. Now, it's super important that you get it into this form, a cubed plus b cubed, or a cubed minus b cubed first. I noticed in class a few of you were not doing that step. So that's step 1. So if I look at a, 8x cubed plus 27, I can write 8x cubed as 2x quantity cubed plus 3 cubed. And that will give me that ax cubed plus bx, a cubed plus b cubed, where a is 2x and b is 3. So we need to get one term to be cubed. We need one a cubed, not separate things cubed, but one thing cubed. Now that it's written like this, I can use, since it's a cubed plus b cubed, I can use this equation, a plus b and then times a squared, and a is 2x, so it's the whole thing squared minus 2x times 3 plus 3 squared. And I can simplify my quadratic there. 2x quantity squared is 4x minus 6x, oh, that's a 4x squared, sorry, minus 6x plus 9. And we're going to stop there. Now we have a quadratic and a linear factor. That is this cubic function fully factored. You can do the same thing to b. You're going to have to write these as one thing cubed. So 64x cubed can be written as 4x quantity cubed minus 5y quantity cubed. Now I have a cubed minus b cubed, so I'm going to use this equation over here, which is 4x minus 5y times 4x quantity squared plus 4x times 5y plus 5y quantity squared. And I can simplify this quadratic just like I did before. 4x quantity squared is 16x squared. 4x times 5y is 20xy. And 5y quantity squared is 25y squared. And that's our answer. Oops. That's the answer. So when you factor cubes, you should get a quadratic and a linear, which makes sense because quadratic means there's 2 x's, linear means there's 1, and we need 3 x's total because it's a cubic function. So when we solve by factoring means once you factor, we can set everything equal to 0 and figure out what x is. So we have to factor first. So in example A above, we already factored this out to be 2x plus 3 times 4x squared minus 6x plus 9. And now that we have the equal 0 here, it's going to equal 0. For this to equal 0, this linear parenthesis needs to be 0, or this quadratic parenthesis needs to be 0. It doesn't matter which one. So we set them each equal to 0 so that we can solve to figure out what it is. So the linear is super easy. We can just straight solve that. X will equal negative 3/2. That's one answer. This is a quadratic that is not factorable. So we can do quadratic formula. We can say negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So then we can simplify this. 36 minus, this is going to be 144, gives you a negative 108. So I can say 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 108 all over 8. And we can break down that radical, negative 108, to 6 plus or minus 6i root 3 all over 8. And then last step, we can simplify all these outside numbers by 2. So I can take a 2 out of here, and I can take a 2 out of here. I can take a 2 out of here. So I really get 3, I'm going to write it over here, 3 plus or minus 3i all over 4. Three plus or minus 3i root 3. Excuse me. And this plus or minus gives me 2 answers. This is my third answer. Because I have a cube, I need 3 answers. And that's how we factor or solve by factoring for a cubic function. If we look at b, 125x cubed minus 27 equals 0. We have to write it as a cubed plus b cubed, or a cubed minus b cubed, which would be 5x quantity cubed minus 3 cubed. And that's going to equal 5x minus 3 times 25x squared plus 15x plus 9, once you factor by using the formulas from earlier. Then I set each parenthesis equal to 0. So 5x minus 3 equals 0. So x will equal 3/5. And then I can say 25x squared plus 15x plus 9 equals 0. And using quadratic formula for that, I get negative 15 equals plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 225, minus 4 times a times c, all over 2a. And 2 times 25 gives you 50. So we can simplify this fraction. This gives us negative 15 plus or minus, there should not be an equal sign in there, just a plus or minus, root negative 675 all over 50. And I can break 675 down to negative 15 plus or minus 15I root 3 all over 50. And I can simplify all my outside numbers. I can take a 5 out of all of them. So I get negative 3 plus or minus 3I root 3 all over 10. So x could be one of these two numbers right here, or it could be this third number here. And those are your answers. So let's do this one. Why don't you pause the video right now and try to do this one, 64x cubed minus 216, and then you can play it once you're done and see if you got the answer. I'm going to keep going with the answer. So you have to write it in factored form first. Before that, we have to put it in the form a cubed minus b cubed. And that would be 4x cubed minus 6 cubed, which will equal 4x minus 6 times 16x squared plus 24x plus 36 from using the formula from above. Then we set each of them equal to 0. 4x minus 6 equals 0. So x equals 6 over 4, and you always reduce your fractions to equal 3/2. And then we have 16x squared plus 24x plus 36 equals 0. We can do quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. And simplifying this radical will give us negative 2,048 and then we could break down our radical, which will be negative 24 plus or minus 32I root 2 all over 32. Last step, simplify your outside numbers. If you can, I can take out an 8 from all of these. So that becomes a 4, that becomes a 4, this becomes a 3, and we're left with negative 3 plus or minus 4I root 2 all over 4. So this section's kind of long, so this will be the end of the first video, and you can watch the next video to continue on with the lesson.